Hey, welcome investors to the 40 Finance channel. My name's Jeff Beers. Today I'm going to be talking about Palantir stock. This has been a very popular stock in the news lately and lots of speculation surrounding this one. So we're going to dig in and talk about Palantir stock and where I see it going in the longer term future and what you should know before buying Palantir stock today. Reminder as always that my stock picks and projections are just my opinion for your entertainment. Please make sure you do your own research and due diligence before investing in any stock. And of course, if you like stock market analysis like this and other personal finance videos, then please make sure to subscribe to the 40 Finance channel. Thank you to everyone who has supported the channel so far. Okay, so the Palantir stock has really sort of taken a jump up here recently. And part of it is because options traders and other investors like the ones in Wall Street Bets have sort of picked on it as a potential swing trade to invest in. But today Palantir's down a little bit, and so if you go back to those swing trading boards or day trading boards, you can see a lot of people are having a tough time with this one. This particular person bought 7,800 shares at just about 100% of their portfolio, and they are down substantially. So these are the kinds of short-term bets that we don't typically cover too much on this channel because I'm always trying to hold at least a year out. And this is a good example of why we don't try to play the short-term game, certainly not at 99% of our portfolio. But let's take a look at Palantir. Over the long term, what can we expect from this company? All right, so stock price today for this one is $22.98. It was falling when I first started recording this, so I don't know if it has went down much more, but it has made a high as $33.50. The low of $8.90 was probably close to their IPO date. And you can see from an IPO perspective, this one came out and it was relatively flat. Reminds me a lot of the IPO from Rocket Mortgage, which is one that I bought into, where you just didn't have a lot of activity. And then I think a couple news headlines came out, and then the options traders and swing traders sort of jumped on that, and you got up into those 30s, and now you're dipping back down into 23. So for me personally, when I see things take a dip like that, I start to get interested, right? Because I could see that it went up high and now it's coming back down. So that's kind of what sparked this video, is the downslide today, to see what we have and is this an investing opportunity. You see at the top of the screen there, a trailing 12 months revenue of $1 billion. They have cash on hand of $1.8 billion. And the debt load at the close of their most recent quarter was $200 million, so they're in a good spot there. EPS for Q3 was negative 94 cents. That's obviously to be expected. A lot of times with IPOs and growth companies, we don't really look at EPS necessarily. But it's just good to know where it stands. All right, so the big thing we want to kind of ascertain on a stock like Palantir is, where is it going and how long is it going to take to get there for the fundamentals to sort of rear their head, and that kind of tells us what the stock should be valuated at today. So just looking into Yahoo to see what analysts are projecting this year and next year. You got 6 analysts who have submitted earnings estimates. These are non-GAAP numbers, I'm assuming, because there's a ton of stock-based compensation that's going to come out with the IPO. So we just have to assume these are non-GAAP for now. And you can see that the average estimate is about 8 cents. That jumps 50% to next year to 12 cents. And that follows in line with what you're seeing a little bit with revenue. You're going to finish the year in the neighborhood of 1.07 billion. Next year, you're going to get whatever, a 35-40% increase from there. So there's some good news. Definitely, this is a growing company. And when you go back and look at the debt and you go and see some of these non-GAAP earnings per share, there's definitely some positive signs. I mean, there's weaker companies out there than Palantir just on these metrics alone. So a little bit of life, I would say, from this slide to say like, hey, this company might be growing in the right direction. All right, so I dug up the most recent Morningstar report for this company. And again, with a growth company, Morningstar is going to be hit or miss because they're so metrics orientated. And I think the big thing here is you just have a ton of blank data, right? Because they have not even reported a full fiscal year as a publicly traded stock yet. So you're not really able to look inside and make a ton of projections about revenue multiple years out like you can a traditional stock. They do stack up the quarterly revenue, and you can see that in 2018 we had 595 million. Then that jumped up to about 750. And we remember from last slide that they're getting into the 1 billion mark here, just a little bit over. So you definitely have a growth trajectory that is showing up on paper, which is a great thing. But from the long-term perspective, there's not a lot here that can tell you for sure that, plus 50% sales gains, right? If that's what you're looking for. There's nothing in here that would tell you that is going to happen or that that's projected. So in my opinion, it's a little bit of a blind spot. You're kind of going into this without a lot of references on where things can grow. All right, so also from Morningstar, they always do this bulls versus bears. I usually think it's pretty interesting as a short one. Bulls say Palantir can be the answer to problems that governments and commercial customers face in integrating large-scale, disparate data in cohesive and coherent manner to gain insight and drive actions. Palantir is a strong government business and is diversifying into higher-margin commercial markets. It could become the data operating system for companies and industries. The company also has substantial margin expansion opportunities via improvement in deployment costs and by offering commercially available solutions to prospects. So this stuff is pretty big, like on the government versus consumer side, because government contracts move really slow. And while Palantir has done a great job, in my opinion, of securing like some big dollar government contracts, at the end of the day, the more you can get into this commercial business. So that would be companies like, Amazon, just to pick a name out of a hat, or Costco or something. As soon as you start to get into that game, when you're helping businesses do more to drive revenue and profits, then this whole game could really explode. There's still room left in the government. It looks like they're playing on the international side. They're playing on the healthcare side. I'm not saying that the government money is going to end, but getting in with business, commercial business, is when you can start adding clients at a pretty high clip and pace, and hopefully that's their future plan. All right, on the bulls side of the case, the bear side of the case, Palantir solutions are aimed at resolving sophisticated large-scale data problems which may only develop into a niche market. So on this one, Palantir works in data, so do a lot of people, and everybody's trying to provide data solutions. So the niche market for them, if things were to go bad and they couldn't expand, would end up being like they can only solve super complex problems, and that might be a high margin game, but there may not be a ton of customers. We won't know this probably for 3 to 5 years. With its multi-class share structure, investors have limited voting power. I don't really care too much about that. Lucrative contracts may be scorned if deals do not match Palantir's ideals. As your average investor, there's not a whole lot you can do about this. Palantir will likely encounter stiff competition in the years ahead, including enterprise software stalwarts, defense contractors, and even in-house development teams at its customers. So obviously, if you're getting $1 billion government contracts, it's pretty safe to say that other people are going to be attracted to that market. And typically, the bigger the contract, the more scrutiny it's going to face in the bidding process. So if someone were to be able to match what Palantir's software does, then you could definitely start to see competition nibble around their profits. All right, taking a look at the TipRanks analyst to see what they're thinking. Sort of fresh ratings, except for this stock is very volatile right now. I mean, it's a $20 stock, so it is changing literally with the news every day. Does look like someone came out from Morgan Stanley today and issued a sell, minus 24%. The ones that are 19 days old all came in around, $15 or so, somewhere in there. So there's not a lot of intuition from the big market analysts to say that this is a $30 stock if you were thinking that would be your target over the next year. However, with that being said, this is a company where like one or two headlines can change everything. And I would say that these price targets are probably rational ones, but one new vendor or one new contract that were to come through, let's just say at the end of December into the new year, and the fortunes of the whole company can change when they've got, $1 billion in revenue. It only takes, another $20 million contract to suddenly boost their revenues. All right, so bottom line for me on Palantir, it's not a bad stock. I mean, not at $20. I think that there's worse plays you can do, and there's certainly some upside if their software takes shape. On the downside, though, you are definitely flying blind into the next year and into 2022 because there just isn't that many revenue projections for what this company is going to do next year. And I even went through their investor relations presentation, and they're only projecting into Q4 right now. So we'll see at the end of Q4 when they report in, I guess it'd be, January, February, will they put on the docket what they're expecting out of 2021? And if so, does that include any new customers? How are they looking at things? I think it's pretty fair to assume that they'll hit their 35 to 50% revenue increase next year. And if their margins are improving with the software going out, and you get some relief from that stock-based compensation that comes with these IPOs, then you could definitely see potentially a profitable company by 2022, and that's when you can start using more fundamental measures to try to speculate what the price would be at. I think the big key for me is I'd like to see Palantir have more commercial contracts, right? That was the company's part I was talking about, Amazon, Costco. If companies like that start signing up, then you have huge scale. As long as it's 60 to 70% government contracts, look, that's guaranteed money and no one's going to turn it away, but it is a little bit more risky from the growth standpoint because there's only so many government offices that would use a service like this. So developing commercial, that's where I would really keep my ear to the ground. Are they starting to get into regular companies that can drive more profits? Just imagine if a company like FedEx, to pick one, somehow used their data to, reroute planes and packages to make them more efficient and drive up profits, 10, 20% on a company as big as FedEx. That would be a huge win, and it would be a huge win for Palantir because they would ultimately have this calling card of like, hey, look what we did for FedEx, we can do it for you too. All right, one more perceived negative that I just want to mention is that not everybody is keen on the way Palantir uses, privacy data to run their analysis, right? And it probably works pretty well on the government side of things because the government can do things like that, but it could run into some more problems on the commercial level. And there is this outside sort of whisper in my ear, I guess, to say, what will Democrats think about this on the government side? Because they've been pretty anti-Google, pro-privacy for quite some time. It may not be a good look for them to use Palantir. So I don't know if that would affect contracts in the future, but it's something to think about. As for me personally, If I were to buy into this one, I would probably hope that it goes under $20. I do sort of like this one, or under $18, $17 that I might throw a flyer at. It's never going to be a major position for me, but I could definitely see investing a few grand just to get 100 or 200 shares, with the hopes that 5 years from now this could be something big. But it's not without risk. So for me, it's always going to be a smaller position in my portfolio if I were to ever buy it. All right, guys, that's my quick take on Palantir. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think about this stock in the comments. And as always, I will see you on the next video.